Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. I am Tiffany Bacon. I am the News and Program Director here at WURD. And I thank you all so much for joining us here in the beautiful Comcast Technology Center. Can we give a round of applause for this space, for this event, which I know you are going to enjoy. This is a very special edition of the Black Words Club featuring a conversation with Alice Walker. Here to curate that conversation are two very powerful and serious sisters, one of which is the owner of Harriet's Bookshop, and the other is the CEO of WURD. Please put your hands together for Ms. Janine Cook and Sarah Lomax Reese.
Good evening, everyone. Wow, these lights are bright.
They are bright. Oh, y'all look so good. Ooh.
Check out my girl here. Let's give this a round of applause.
Thank y'all. I mean, I'm like, we in Philly, so I was like, we gotta make Philly the best looking city in the country. That's what I'm working on. So we gonna get there.
Yes. So we are so excited to be here. A lot of care and time went into creating tonight's evening and this conversation. We do a book club once a month on WURD called the Black Words Book Club. And this month is a celebration of Alice Walker's newest book, Gathering Blossoms Under Fire. And it is an amazing compilation of 50 years of her journals. So she's been keeping a journal since she was 18 years old. And so she's been chronicling her life and her work since the 1960s.
Who started the book? Just by show of hands, who started it? Okay, all right.
So tonight is your night to, if you haven't started it, tonight's your night to start that book.
By the end, we'll ask again, like, who's ready to start it, you know?
Yeah.
All right.
So we want to welcome Alice Walker to this space and to this conversation, which both Janine and I are incredibly excited to have. And towards the end, we're gonna have questions, so you all can ask questions as well. There should be a little 3x5 card on your on your seat. Here is Alice Walker. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We are so honored. I'm Sarah Lomax Reese, President and CEO of WURD, and this is...
And I'm Janine A. Cook from Harriet's Bookshop and now Ida's Bookshop.
Very happy to meet you both.
Yes, and I want to start tonight's conversation off by dedicating this program to my dear friend, your dear friend, our dear sister, Valerie Boyd, who was the editor of this incredible book, Gathering Blossoms Under Fire, and she and Alice Walker worked together for, I believe, like 10 years, putting this book together. And Valerie was my very first business partner. She and I co-founded a Black health magazine called Health Quest in 1991. And we published that magazine for about 10 years. And so I am so deeply grateful that my career was started in lockstep with Valerie. And so she is here. Valerie made transition in February. And so I'm going to stop there because I don't want to get verklempt.
So I will. So a weird thing happened where we ordered a bunch of Valerie's books for tonight as well to go with Gathering Blossoms. And then all of her books came, but with a different book on the inside. And we were
Ah,
like, "Ooh, she is letting it be known." I mean, that's the way I see it. At least is like, we in this moment, she is definitely still around.
Yeah, and I've asked Valerie to walk with me tonight with through
Absolutely,
this
absolutely.
interview. So Alice Walker, thank you again for joining us, for being here in Philadelphia with us in front of this amazing crowd at the Comcast Technology Center. So, like I said, you worked with Valerie for about 10 years. Obviously, you could have chosen anyone to work with you on this book, but you trusted Valerie. And I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about how you and Valerie met, how you came to collaborate on this project, and then I want you to answer why this book now. You have written, 7 novels, 4 collections of short stories, 4 children's books. I mean, you have this amazing body of work, and this is your innermost thoughts, your journals from over 50 years. And I wonder why you decided to write that book now. But first, start with Valerie, please.
well, I think when you are with someone who is overseeing the demise of someone you love, and I'm talking now not about Valerie, but about someone that we knew in Atlanta, and he was, he was our brother, and we really wanted to be with him as he went through many surgeries, many days of, having it very hard. And I watched her support this brother of ours, who eventually left us. And I think what I want to say is that when you have an opportunity to be with people as they support, others, you get to know them. You get to know them really well, and you can trust them because you see that in a moment that is very difficult, they can be counted on. And she was like that. She and Beverly Guy-Sheftall and Rudolph Bird is the person that we were sisters of. We were Rudolph's sisters, and we took care of him. And it was an incredible journey. I don't know if you know anything about Rudolph Bird, but he was at Emory. He's one of the reasons I put my papers there. And he was someone who was interested in the journals. So Valerie was very natural. It was very natural that she would be chosen to help those journals see the light of day. And she was someone I trusted. The journals are special, and she was someone that I knew could handle them responsibly, and also would know when to cut. Because originally they were going to be 1,000 pages. Just this part was 1,000 pages, and we had to cut that in half. So that's a lot of trust in someone that you have them do that.
And I'm curious, when you say that it was 1,000 pages and you cut it to 500, how did you all determine what you would put out into the world and what you would hold sacred and private when you have that much material to work with?
Well, Black Elk, who was a Sioux holy man, said something I think that we should think about, which is that all life is sacred, all life. And that helps you to not be so attached to your own, quote, secrets. All life is sacred. Human beings are pretty much the same, wherever. I mean, well, some of them are, we're finding they're really very different. But for the most part, the humans we know are similar, and they have similar experiences. So I feel very strongly that the book itself is sacred. And that's its meaning, that it's a sacred book, it's a medicine book. And it can be used to really help us. Part of what we've been missing is this kind of sharing of very day-to-day realities. Not just about, sexual partners, but about how you actually buy a house, how you save money. I mean, how you leave bad marriages and bad places, that you've outgrown? How do you do that, especially when you have children? So all of this is medicine work, it's sacred work. And if we don't share it, we have only ourselves to blame for being ignorant about how things are done and how people actually can leave terrible things and go on to something better.
So in the book, you talking about money. You share a lot about money. You share things that I think are, very, very private. You make a lot of lists around money. You talk about poverty in your childhood. And so in doing activism work, how do you manage that relationship between money and actually doing the creative and the active work that you are here to do?
I do it because it's necessary. I do it because my parents were poor and my grandparents were poor, and for that they were enslaved. So I don't have an excuse, really. I mean, I figure I can do my part today because they somehow managed to get me, to this point. And I don't think of it as something that's so personal. I think that almost all of us could do, anything that I've done. It's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of sitting down with your bank book, if you have one, and your mortgage payment, that's due, and your ability to have sometimes 2 and 3 jobs. It's not easy, but what is easy? I mean, it's something that you become accustomed to based on who raised you, and I was raised by people who worked hard and who took care of us to the best of their ability.
So you talk about, this work, this book is like spiritual medicine.
I've lost the sound for you. And I have touched nothing. So can you hear me? You can hear me? I can't hear you.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh, no, I hear you. Keep
Oh,
going.
good. Thank
I hear
you.
you now.
We're back. We're back. Okay, you can hear us now?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I want to just go back to that concept of healing and medicine and this space of how we put ourselves out there and be fully human. And one of the things that you wrote in your journal was about freedom, and I'm so curious about how we as Black people, how we as Black women embrace and find freedom. And you wrote, "My God, what do Black women writers want? We want freedom. Freedom to be ourselves, to write the unwritable, to say the unsayable, to think the unthinkable, to dare to engage the world in a conversation it has not had before." And I just thought, I mean, you are such a spectacular writer, but can you speak to us about freedom and how you have lived and tried to model and embrace a life of freedom?
Well, for me, it's really the only pursuit, the pursuit of being completely free. I mean, why else be here? I don't see any oak tree complaining and kvetching, about anything. I mean, if it has sufficient water and air, it does what it does. It's an oak tree. Well, I'm a me. And this is basically what this particular being does. I mean, it's just, my character. So I think that is the foundation, that if you understand that you are really just a part of everything that's here and everything is being itself, why can't you be? And it does away with a lot of the struggle, which we have lost so much ground in trying to be something that's not us. I mean, we have lost so much time and so much energy and so much sleep, arguing with our fundamental nature. Our fundamental nature wants to be free. I mean, that is its characteristic. It's a free expression. And so if you come to terms with that reality that you are being in this universe, you don't know how you got here, really, but you're here. And what is everything else that's here doing? Everything else, water is being water, isn't it? The moon is being the moon, we hope. The sun, everything you plant is whatever it is. And we have that too. We have this perfect right to be just who we are. And that is freedom when you can do that, when you can be just exactly who you are and what you are.
So
It's
on
our
that,
birthright.
that's right. That's right. Mm. So on that note of freedom and the conflict that happens when you're not doing the thing you're here to do, you decide to share about mental ups, mental downs, like you decide to share about depression, you decide, like you just let that be what it is. Can you talk about how like the journals, but all of this process has been a part of like how you've been able to maintain a mental headspace to do this work? Like how?
That's why I recommend journaling. This is one of the ways we keep, ourselves open to ourselves. It's like reading yourself as your own book.
How many journal in here just by?
So I brought my journal up here. I've been
Mhm.
journaling, Alice Walker, since I was about 18. So
Good.
so this says create a life you love.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what this journal is devoted to, is my aspiration to create the life I love.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Do you remember your first journal?
Yes, I got it when I was a student at Spelman, and I was going off to the Soviet Union. And a friend knew it was going to be a fantastic trip, although I'd never been out of the country. She was from a different country. So she gave me a little journal to use, and I scribbled in it the whole time I was away, starting in Finland and going, right across. Um, I think that that's one of the ways that we help each other. I think a gift, one of the best gifts we can give a young person is a journal, so that they can begin to look into it as into an internal mirror, instead of always, trying to see themselves in mirrors. But it's a wonderful way to see your inner self grow.
I'm curious, as you have these journals in this book. Is there something that you would say now, with the wisdom that you've accrued over your lifetime, as you look back at that 18 or 30 or 40-year-old woman that's expressing their life in these journals? Is there anything that you would say now to that person then that would maybe empower them in a different way?
Just continue to have courage enough to get up every morning. Because of course, there are suicidal periods, and that happens a lot to many, many people, not just soldiers who've done terrible things in war. Sometimes there's a chemical imbalance. There are all kinds of reasons. But yes, I mean, just to have courage to believe that the next day, the next morning, will have a brighter sun, and you'd like to be there to say hi to it.
So my next question, so I've been working with many folks across the country on this opportunity to make Harriet Tubman Day the first federal holiday named for a woman. And in that work, at the root of it, I believe there's a conversation about reparations. And I know this is not necessarily directly in the journals, but could you talk a little bit about your position on reparations?
Oh, I think people of color, Black people, deserve reparations. Yes, absolutely. It's a matter of how you distribute that. We were supposed to have reparations right after slavery, after the end of slavery. Although my parents, as sharecroppers, slavery didn't end. I mean, for many people, it never ended. So yes, I mean, it's totally important to do for the good of the country. For the people who, many people, think it's a bad idea, but basically, even those people will be happy to feel so much better when this is done, because it acknowledges behavior of their ancestors that they have denied, and in denying that, they've harmed themselves. You cannot deny, what your ancestors have done. It distorts you. So it's better to face that and say, oh, let's see, what can we do? What can we do now so that we can actually correct some of the harm that was done? It will be very good for America.
So I wanted to, you wrote this incredible essay on your website. And one of the things that you said is, we are living in the most volatile and unpredictable era humanity, to our imperfect knowledge, has ever seen. Mm-hmm. And you were referring to some allegations that have been leveled at you around anti-Semitism, and you have been in the crosshairs in other parts of your life. We many of us who are old enough, many of us who are here are old enough to remember when The Color Purple movie came out, and there was a whole effort around labeling you anti-Black male because of the portrayal of Black men in The Color Purple. And so I want to see if you could speak to this moment in time that is so volatile and difficult for all of us for many reasons, but for you specifically because of what you're having to defend or articulate around your position of around anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm. Well, once I was also accused of being anti-religious because of a short story, and anti-meat eating because of another one. And I was attacked because I did a lot of work against female genital mutilation. So from my perspective, it seems to be, to me, that my perspective on all of these things is always up for scrutiny and sometimes censure. But I see that, my way of being in the world, questioning everything, choosing friends that I like, whether people like them or not, speaking up for horses, which didn't make me anti-meat eating. It just made me really a lover of horses. This is just my way. If you really want some other person who is different, then you should go and find that other person, but not me. Mm-hmm. And that's all I can say, really. I mean, I'm grateful to have the perspective that I have of the world, coming from where I come from in Georgia, and those parents that I had and grandparents. We know suffering. We recognize it. It's not strange. And we are obligated to speak. We have to. I mean, look at our history. Martin, he spoke. Malcolm, he spoke. Fannie Lou Hamer, she spoke. It's just us. We do that. And we expect people to be upset, and they are. And they, make life as difficult for us as they can, and that's expected also.
So through this process, Sarah and I didn't know each other until this opportunity came together. And I think sisterhood has been built between us as a result of it. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah. And I'm looking at like Celia and Nettie. I'm looking at the sisters that run through your stories. And I wanna know, even my sister is here right now. Where are you, Jazzy? Somewhere. Right, my sister right here, right now, making sure that the books are being sold at the event. What could we do to be better sisters to our sisters?
Better listeners, and not quite so fearful that what you hear will really upset you. I mean, and if it does upset you, just bear that, because your sister often really needs you. And I give an example. When I was pregnant at one time in college, and I didn't know what to do because nobody had taught us a thing about how you even got pregnant. I mean, it was just, And my sisters, both of them, essentially turned their backs. And I was left with one solution, which was suicide. And I am glad that other sisters at my college stepped forward and were real sisters. They took care of me. And it's the way, in a way, it was tragic that I had to lose, in a very real sense, my blood sisters, because they were not capable of really standing, with me. They were more interested in joining people who would, condemn me. So be there, just be there for your sisters.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that we're trying to model, not just from collaborating on this, but also from a business standpoint, we need to support each other and Black women, Black people, to make sure that we are able to do the excellent work that is in our heart. And a lot of times it gets
And much
stifled.
thanks to Comcast, but also this is actually very good what we're doing for Comcast, right? And Comcast and other institutions like this get to be supportive of this type of sisterhood, because it's actually really win-win.
Absolutely. You can get on your soapbox. I did want to ask you, Alice Walker, about you talk in the book about the relationships that you've had with some of the most amazing literary giants in history, James Baldwin and Langston Hughes and Ralph Ellison and June Jordan and Richard Wright. And I wanted to see, because I just feel like there's this incredible literary history that you are a part of, that you represent. And I didn't know that you had touch points with all of these people until I read this book. And I just wanted to see if you could talk about their influence on you, your influence on them, and just how we continue to build this literary tradition in the Black community.
Well, a lot of those people you mentioned were a lot older, and I came to them as a very young writer-to-be. Langston Hughes, for example, whom I met in New York when I was at Sarah Lawrence. I was a student, and I hadn't read his work. And one of the things that moved me so much was, being me, I told him I had not. And being him, he just reached down. I was visiting his apartment, and he just reached behind the counter and he gave me a whole stack of them to read without, giving me a sermon about why haven't you? I mean, which was so graceful. He also blessed my interracial marriage, which was a big thing for a Black man at that time to do. It was really generous of him. Ralph Ellison, I just met fairly briefly because I was teaching at Tougaloo College in Mississippi, and he came down and gave just a stunning lecture. But then he was attacked by some of the students because they didn't think of him as being radical enough. This was a period when, radicalism had to look a certain way or you were not radical. And I loved his grace. I think he was a little tipsy, which is one of the reasons he was so graceful. But I love the way he just took it in stride. He just had his point of view, and you didn't like it, so what? Who else was there? June Jordan.
June Jordan, I said Richard Wright, Jean Toomer.
Well, Richard Wright and Jean Toomer, of course, were well before my time. I mean, they were more like ancestral writers that I used in my own development, especially Jean Toomer, who is a very much underrated writer, incredible writer. June Jordan and I, however, became very close friends and incredibly tight sisters. I mean, we were really, I miss her every day. She was fierce, she was fearless, she was, incredibly smart. And I feel like, one of the things we did by forming the sisterhood, one of the things that came out of that was that we were teaching in a way. I mean, I see that decades later. Other young women writers coming along, and men too, but how you have to gather together and kind of understand your own foundation in a country so that you can't be divided is very, very important. So when you see, for instance, some writers who basically get kind of stolen away by the system so that they then turn on everybody, this is what we were trying to avoid. We did not want anyone to feel like they had to be, kind of the there was a phrase long ago, the spook who sat by the door, that everybody had to have a spook who was sitting by the door. And that was the one who basically turned on the other people, the other creative people, the other political people. And the way you avoid that is by calling together everyone that you can reach and really sitting together and determining that this mode of separation of us will not work here.
I just want to invite people, if you have questions, there are 3x5 cards on your chairs. You can write a question and then we'll have them passed up to us. And then we can try and ask some of those questions before we
Can I sneak one in while they, while y'all are writing your question? So love, relationships, it's like, a huge part of this book, from Quincy Jones to Tracy Chapman. And like you talked about your husband, your ex-husband, and you are very free in your expressions about love. Could you say a little bit about what the Alice of now knows that the Alice through the years was trying to learn about love?
Oh, that is just still fantastic. I mean, that is great. That you should have it. You should be feeling it. But here's the thing about love. Now, many people, I've said this somewhere before, so bear with me. But many people think that the most important thing is to be loved. But actually, the most important thing is to love. Because the magic of love is that it is actually something you can generate within your own heart. And this is a miracle. I mean, it is just such an incredible thing. So all of us, instead of waiting for somebody to love us and hoping for love and praying for love, we should just find whatever on this planet that's lovable and love it, just to feel that generative power that love has. It's an incredible thing. And so, I just wish that for people, everyone. I mean, if you have the experience of being an earthling, living here, and somehow you miss that, I'm very sorry. It's really not to be missed.
So can we get some of the questions? Yeah. Let's see. So one of the questions is, what led you to decide to release and share your journals?
Medicine woman. I understand that, we have now brought into this world, people of color, but, all people really, generations of people without guidance, without any, saying, well, this is just what was going on. This is how it felt. This is what I did. Not nearly enough sharing of the rungs of the ladder, the ladder of life. And I think when you become, an elder, this is part of your responsibility. I mean, you know certain things that the young people, especially as distracted as they are now by all kinds of things, they would never know otherwise. And I think it's really cruel not to share with them some of the past. But
Comcast.
Them.
Oh, here we go.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're frozen, but I think you're coming back. We got you. Keep going.
Oh, good. So where did I stop? Because I really want to say that about the youth.
Just you can kind of restate it, because I do think this is We heard most of what you said, but you can
Good.
keep going.
Yeah, no, it's about, eldering and understanding the responsibility to the youth. That you have now lived a long, full life. You have learned a lot of things that nobody told you about. And you realize that really, if they had, it would have been a lot better. It would have been a lot easier, I mean, for instance, renting versus buying. I didn't realize how really kind of not super intelligent it is to rent if you can buy. It took me a long time to get that. And it should not have, because I did grow, as we all do, to really understand how necessary housing is. And that's why in my journals, you see me going over my, meager income, trying to figure out how I can afford to buy a house for me and my daughter. And these are simple things, but they really make a big difference in the stability of our culture and our society.
This is by Adriana, and Adriana says, "How did you navigate your experiences of being a successful writer once you started reaching a certain level of acclaim? So, how has, I guess, celebrity affected your ability to do the writing, and how have you stayed grounded in that?"
I failed celebrityhood, and I basically didn't really try either. I like being in the country. I like gardening. I like dancing. And so periodically I figure out a way to have just a blowout dance with lots of people and good music. But I'm not and never have been very interested in that celebrity part. I mean, it's just, it's some people take to it very well and they really enjoy it, but I don't.
I think we should ask Alice about The Color Purple.
Well, of course. Who wants to know? Who wants to know about The Color Purple? Of course, yes.
So
right.
I think that first it was, you won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. You were the first Black woman, or maybe, the first Black
yeah, you
to
can
win
clap
the
for that.
Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, but
that.
wait. Let's look at that. That whole thing about being the first Black woman to do something or the first Black man, they don't tell you how many Black women and Black men would have won everything they have if they hadn't been, enslaved and working 5 jobs and not able to do, what they, should have been able to do. I mean, it's a dishonesty, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So we can just stop saying somebody's the first Black whatever.
Yeah.
Zora should have won a Pulitzer.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes,
But their eyes were watching God. Really. How about Richard Wright? How about Ralph Ellison? I think maybe he did win something. But anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, but with The Color Purple, right, it's a story that has been made into all of these other forms. It's gone from a book into a screenplay. It's, we've gone to like musical concerts just to hear the music. What is it about The Color Purple? And you got to know that this weekend in New Jersey at our new shop, we've dedicated the entire weekend. It's an Alice Walker weekend. You're going, we've turned the shop into a juke joint tomorrow, and we have a boozy brunch on Saturday. It's a whole Alice Walker weekend. Salamisha Tillett, who wrote In Search of the Color Purple, is coming to Philly to sit with us and talk about your work as well. But what is it about The Color Purple? Like, why is it able to transform and transmute itself so much?
Well, I think people do love the truth. They love it. And they like hearing from people that they haven't paid much attention to before. And I think it's like watching people break free. It's like watching a prison break, like getting out. And I say that partly because I'm right now reading an amazing book, actually 2 amazing books by women, Black women, that show how important it is for us to speak in our own languages, in our own idioms. One is a South African writer, Bessie Head, who just, lived and died in Botswana and had just an incredible life that you would never, hear about unless you searched. And then the other one is a sister who grew up in Florida, in the fields there, picking vegetables. And these are hardworking women who are using voices that we haven't heard. So it's just an incredible thing that they're offering, and that's very good for us.
So we have a question from the audience that wants to know, this person wants to know more about your journaling practice. How do you describe your journaling practice? How often? How do you do it? I think maybe they want to start their journaling practice and want some guidance.
Buy a journal and a pen and just go writing. I mean, it might help you as it helped me when I was raising my daughter to meditate, every single day. I don't meditate that way anymore. I meditate often, but I don't do it, as my mother would say, religiously. But yeah, you need a place, a sacred place for you to sit and gather yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, and then write from your heart and realize that there's nobody more precious on this planet than you. And therefore get to know that you and love that you and protect that you. And that's how you can do it without, drugs, without going to see, all these healers. You heal yourself.
Yeah. Sharice asks, yeah, take that in for a second. So Sharice asks, as a creative writer, I appreciate moments of solitude, time when I am able to shut the world out and reflect. Can you talk more about solitude?
I love it. I love it. I am a solitary person. I embrace it with my whole heart, which has been very interesting because I've also really enjoyed all of my, various, my marriage, my fallings in love with, hither and thither. I love all of that too. But at the root of this being that I am is quiet, and is a being in love with nature. So I'm very happy, just being in the country.
Okay.
Well, I think we're just about out of time.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
One more. So what is growing in Alice Walker's garden right now? What are you growing?
Well, collard greens, of course, and they are large enough to eat. And soon it's been chilly, so even though we planted corn, it's struggling. Strawberries. It's not the time of year. It's not warm enough to plant a lot of things. Although a friend just sent me a little packet saying that we could plant okra, but I don't think it's going to do well because we don't have hot nights. Okra likes warm nights. I bet you.
What about metaphorically? What is growing in Alice Walker's garden metaphorically?
Well, which garden would it be that you're talking about?
Inside, spiritually.
Well, what is always growing in it, actually, being authentic. I think authenticity is the only real praise. It's the sufficient praise for being here, being what you are.
That's probably the right place to end, but I did want to ask I wanted to ask, who are you reading? Who are you reading? Who inspires you, as an artist, as a writer, but who are you reading?
Oh, have you checked out my website? I read.
I have. I saw that you were reading the love stories of W.B. Du Bois, or the love songs of W.B. Du Bois.
That was a while back, but right now.
Oh, that was a while back.
I'm deep in Viola Davis's book, which is called Finding Me, I think. I love Billy Porter's book, Unprotected. I'm reading, I think I mentioned this biography of Bessie Head, this South African writer who lived and died in Botswana. And then this sister who, I don't know how I even got this book, but this sister who, grew up in Florida and was working in the migrant fields. I mean, we never think about Black people working in those fields. We think it's all Mexicans and, some Haitians, but here are these, people from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, going and working in those fields, picking beans, So I'm very happy about her book because this is exactly what we want. I think we want people who felt they did not have a voice, that nobody wanted to hear their voice, listen to their voice. We want them to be speaking. We want them to be speaking. They are fundamental to any transformation in this country and the world.
They want the name of that book.
The name of the book?
Which book are you talking about? Oh, it has an incredible name. Here it is. And I don't know why it's called this, but it's called Don't Worry About the Mule Going Blind.
Don't worry about the mule going blind.
The mule going blind. And it's
I'm gonna go make sure it's at Ida's and Harriet's bookshop.
I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, it's so gripping because it's so truthful, about how if nobody's telling you how you get pregnant, how you are abused by men, sometimes women, and you there you are, you just this innocent being, that nobody is protecting. And that's the other thing we should think about really hard, which is how do we protect each other, even when we don't know each other? We're so unprotected. Billy Porter is not the only unprotected person. And Viola Davis is not the only one who's had just a hellacious childhood, And we learn from them. That's why reading is so important. We learn, how to deal with life.
Thank you I really appreciate what you've done for us. You left us a lot of wisdom, a whole roadmap in Gathering Blossoms. So thank you so much. And it's an honor to be able to give you your flowers in real time and,
Absolutely.
and to be in the presence of a literary icon. Thank you so much for continuing to do this.
Thank you both very much. You're very beautiful.
And as much as we want folks to read the books that you told us about, we want them to read your book. We want them to read Gathering Blossoms Under Fire. And so thank you so much, Alice Walker. As we said at the beginning, tonight's program is dedicated in honor of Valerie Boyd, the editor of Gathering Blossoms Under Fire. So we are going to actually close our program today with a little photo tribute video montage, homage to Valerie Boyd, my sister friend, dear friend to Alice Walker, incredible journalist and editor. She wrote Wrapped in Rainbows, the biography of Zora Neale Hurston, another book that must be read by everyone. And again, she is the editor of Gathering Blossoms Under Fire. So I think we're going to roll this video or this photo montage. Yes, Comcast? Yes, here we go. So we just wanted to thank you again, Alice Walker, for your time, for your wisdom, for your literary excellence and beauty. And we are all deeply inspired by your life and your work. And we're going to try and get everybody to read Gathering Blossoms Under Fire and your other work that you have so lovingly presented to our community and our world. So thank you, Alice Walker.
Thank you for being there, both of you.
And we want to, that's me and Val. We want to thank all of you for coming out. We want to thank Comcast for hosting us and being such an incredible partner for this event.
Can I thank Lauren Talese, who has been my friend for like 20 years, maybe more.
Oh, absolutely.
We went to college together and sang us beautiful as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren Talese.
Your team.
And your accompanying team. Yes. And everyone who said yes. I reached out to Delilah Wilson Scott, who is here at Comcast.
Thank you so much,
and,
Alice. That was
she
amazing.
said yes immediately.
You are
and
now
just
you are now
made
off
us completely
off the
welcome.
screen, so thank
We worked
you
with Nick
so
Sweat
much.
from her
Enjoy the
team
rest of your
and
evening. It was a pleasure.
Carrie Hurd, who, of course, I want to thank you, Janine Cook.
And so I keep like,
Don't you dare.
But I got a quick story, which is that I reached out to Alice Walker's team a long time ago. Like, you want to do something with Harry's Bookshop? Nothing. And then I was just like, sad, whatever, but it's cool. And then I get an email from Sarah who's like, you want to do this with us? We could do this together. Like, we have the opportunity to do an interview with Alice Walker, and she didn't have to bring us here, and she didn't have to make sure that we got to sell books here, but like, that is sisterhood. So I much appreciation. Thank you.
So please support Harriet's. Please support WURD. I'm not shy about asking. We're selling memberships out there. If you get a membership during the month of May, you get a free copy of Gathering Blossoms Under Fire. You can get your book today if you join. Yes. So and
come see our display.
you got to see.
See the display. My sister, I don't know, she must have already went back there. So when you come to the back and see, pick up your books and read your books and turn your books into wisdom and share your books and actually apply that knowledge, all that. But the books are actually here for sale. Yes.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.